Hey, friend, can I ask you something that might feel a little scary? What if I told you that you have permission to rewrite your story, your faith story, your relationship with God, even your understanding of who you were meant to be without losing the God who loves you? I know that might sound impossible, especially if you've been taught that questioning anything means losing everything. But here's what I discovered. God isn't threatened by our growth. He's not afraid of your questions. He's actually been waiting for you to step into the fullness of who He created you to be. Today, we're completing our journey through the healing pillars with pillar number 3, create a new story. This is where everything you've unraveled and all the truth you've instilled finally gets to live and breathe in your actual life. We'll walk through 4 incredible milestones that can take you from feeling like you don't have enough or you're too much to standing absolutely unshakable in who God created you to be. So settle in with me for this final episode in our series, and let's discover what it means to have permission to create a completely new story, one that honors both your healing and your faith. Welcome to the final episode of our 3-part series on the healing pillars that form the heart of the coming home journey. Over these 3 episodes, we've walked through the path from religious trauma to spiritual freedom. Unravel the trauma, instill the truth, and create a new story. Today, we're exploring how to live from everything you've discovered, how to actually create that new story in your daily life. Welcome to Healing Religious Trauma, the podcast for Christian women ready to heal without losing their faith. If you're feeling the weight of spiritual pressure and distant from the God you used to trust, you're in the right place. I'm Debra Schaefer, spiritual healing coach, founder of the Healing Religious Trauma Circle, and someone who's walked the hard road of untangling toxic faith. If you're ready to make sense of your story, find peace with a safe, loving God, and hear stories that remind you you're not alone, grab your tea, toss the rule book, and let's go. In 6 months, you could be living a completely different story. Instead of feeling anxious around God, you could feel safe. Instead of second-guessing every spiritual decision, you could trust your own discernment. Instead of feeling invisible or not enough, you could stand confidently in who God created you to be. The Coming Home journey takes you through 12 specific milestones that address the exact barriers keeping you stuck. Each one builds on the last, creating real, lasting transformation that touches every area of your life. This isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming the woman God always intended you to be. Free, loved, confident, and unshakable in your identity as His daughter. Ready to transform your story? Start your journey at thecominghomejourney.com. You know, there was a time after everything in my life imploded that I genuinely believed I would never have another happy day on earth. I thought I would never smile again or feel joy in the freest sense. The grief was so overwhelming that I almost died from it, literally. During that time, I did know and feel that God was holding me, keeping me, protecting me. That was all well and good, but I didn't think I had to be happy, too. I thought maybe surviving was enough. But then came that moment I shared in our first episode in this series when I was able to see the entire story and own my own part in it. That's when something shifted. I realized it wasn't circumstances or other people, even as much as I love them, that determined my happiness, what would happen in my life, or how God would use me. So I just took my power back. My dear children were so supportive and loving during this intensely hard time. But I realized I wasn't really serving them like I could and should and wanted to. They were always worrying about me, trying to protect me, and I could see the weight of that on them. So I remember one specific day when I was praying, I said, God, help me to live, and to live like I was never broken, Help me to stop feeling like a victim of others and of circumstances, and help me to serve my children and grandchildren like they deserve. I don't want them to worry about me anymore. And you know what God said to me? He said, Debra, it's time for you to get a life. I thought, how could I do that? Where would I start? I didn't know how I would get there, but I knew I was going to live and have a life like I had never been broken, and love like I was never broken. I realized it was simply a choice to make, and God would give me a path to follow. And that's exactly what happened. Divine providence started showing up for me. I began building a ministry for women like me and started using my rusty gifts, talents, and skills for good. One day, sometime later, I realized that I not only got a life, but God was helping me to reach my full potential in every area. I now have a life, and I smile. I feel happy. God is good. Life is good. It was all a choice. The choice to create a new story instead of staying stuck in the old one. And when I made that choice, God met me there and showed me that my new story could be even more beautiful than I ever imagined. You know, after you've unraveled the trauma and instilled the truth about who God really is, there's this beautiful but sometimes overwhelming question. Okay, so now what? How do I actually live from this new understanding? That's exactly what creating a new story is all about. Taking everything you've discovered and letting it become how you actually move through the world. So, back to our milestones. Milestone number 9. When you feel like you don't have enough. I encounter genuine experiences on my spirit-led path. The first part of creating your new story is moving from spiritual scarcity to abundance. Maybe you've been thinking, I don't have enough wisdom, faith, provision, strength to trust God's leading. But here's what I've learned. When you've done the work of removing the static of false narratives, you can actually hear God's still, small voice clearly. You already have everything you need for each moment because God created you to discern the difference between His voice and other influences. This means you can trust those gentle nudges, those synchronicities, those moments when you just know something is right or wrong. You don't have to serve from emptiness anymore. You can serve from overflow, meeting people's actual needs rather than what you think they need. Living from abundance means asking, what do you actually need, instead of assuming? It means trusting your renewed discernment and following God's leading fearlessly. Okay, milestone number 10. When you feel like you're too much, navigating authentic relationships with divine boundaries. The second part of your new story is learning how to show up authentically without shrinking. Maybe you've been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too analytical, and learn to make yourself smaller to belong. But here's the beautiful truth. You were born with a size 8 foot, but you were given a size 7 shoe. You didn't need a smaller container. You needed bigger spaces that honored your divine design. Your enthusiasm literally means having God within. What others called too much was actually divine fire expressing through your unique gifts. Using love as your foundation, love as a decision, not manipulation, you can create relationships founded on divine principles rather than fear. This means setting boundaries that protect your authenticity while honoring others' free will. It means trusting that love doesn't need control to work. It melts hearts through its own beautiful force. Milestone number 11. When you feel unworthy. The tapestry of transformation has woven wisdom and beauty into my life. The third part of creating your new story is actually believing you deserve the healing and freedom you've experienced. Maybe you're still fighting those internal accusations. Who am I to shine? Who am I to heal, to lead? But here's what God wants you to see. Every thread of your story even the painful ones, has been woven together to create something beautiful. Your scars aren't disqualifications. They're credentials. Your questions weren't rebellion. They were courage. The woman you've become through this healing journey, she's exactly who God intended. You're not being prideful by stepping into your worth. You're being obedient to how He designed you to shine. This milestone is about integration, seeing how all your experiences, even the hard ones, have created beauty and wisdom that the world needs. You're not unworthy of God's calling. You're perfectly prepared for it. Milestone number 12, when you feel like you don't belong. I will not be moved. The final part of your new story is discovering your unshakable foundation. Maybe you've felt displaced, unsure where you fit now that you've outgrown old spaces but haven't found new ones yet. But here's the beautiful culmination of this entire journey. You don't belong because of where you are. You belong because of who you are. Your foundation isn't in systems or people's approval. It's in God's unchanging love for you. I will not be moved doesn't mean you're rigid or unwilling to grow. It means you're rooted so deeply in truth that external circumstances can't shake your identity. You know who you are, whose you are, and what you're called to do. This is where you become a fortress of strength, not because you're hardened, but because you're grounded in love. You become a safe space for others to discover their own authenticity because you're living yours so freely. Okay, let's bring this all together. Creating a new story means living from abundance instead of scarcity, showing up authentically in relationships, believing you're worthy of the calling on your life, and standing unshakable in your identity as God's beloved daughter. This isn't about throwing away your faith. It's about stepping into the faith God always intended for you, one where you're free, loved, worthy, and absolutely unshakable in who He created you to be. What if I told you that feeling distant from God doesn't mean you're a bad Christian? What if your questions aren't rebellion, but actually evidence of a seeking heart? What if the very things you've been told are wrong with you are actually signs that you're ready for something deeper? Here's what I've discovered after walking with dozens of women through their healing. The women who question, who feel deeply, who long for authentic connection with God, they're not the problem. They're the ones brave enough to seek truth. The coming home journey is built on hope. The hope that you can heal without losing your faith, that you can find God's true heart beneath all the noise, and that you can step into the freedom He always intended for you. Over 6 months, you'll move through 12 milestones that gently transform how you see God, yourself, and your purpose. Not through force or pressure, but through the kind of gentle healing that actually lasts. Your story doesn't end with confusion or distance from God. It ends with coming home to His love in a way that feels safe, real, and beautifully yours. Discover what's possible at thecominghomejourney.com. Hey friend, if this episode encouraged you and made you feel a little less alone, would you share it with someone who needs that too? And while you're at it, would you please leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts? It's like a virtual hug that helps more women find their way here. We've completed our 3-part series on the healing pillars, but this is really just the beginning. These pillars unravel, instill, and create our lifelong journey of coming home to the God who has been loving you all along. Until next time, remember, you have everything you need. You're not too much. You're absolutely worthy, and you belong exactly where God has placed you. Your new story is beautiful, and it's just beginning. I'll see you next time.